on both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes & Co.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Our authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime. With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
And right across the United Kingdom.
You can find us on Sky Channel 512.
Virgin Media Channel 604.
Freesat Channel 216.
Freeview Channel 236.
And YouView Channel 236.
You can also take us with you on DAB+ radio.
With the GB News app and at the website gbnews.uk.
We're absolutely everywhere.
Come join us on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good evening. Tonight on Farage, with me, Lawrence Fox, as the days get colder, the Tories get weaker with U-turn after U-turn, this time with Prime Minister Rashid Sunak, as Joe Biden calls him, says we can have onshore wind farms despite ruling it out in the summer. We'll have a debate on that as the winter days get colder and colder and our energy bills get higher and higher. We'll also talk about the latest on the Albanians coming over illegally to the UK. You know, the ones suffering so much in that lovely tourist destination. They're having to pay $5,000 to come over here by boat, and my Talking Pints guest is carpenter by day, TV star by night. But first, the news with Tatiana Sanchez.
Thank you, Lawrence. This is the latest from the GB Newsroom. Levelling Up Secretary Michael Gove has given planning permission for a new coal mine in Cumbria. The plan has been recommended by the Independent Planning Inspector. It's the first coal mine in the country for 30 years. The government says the coal will be used for the production of steel and not for power generation. Friends of the Earth described it as an appalling decision that will damage the fight against the climate crisis. Travellers are being warned to expect cancellations and delays around Christmas as strikes at a number of airports are set to cause major disruption. The Public and Commercial Services Union says around 1,000 Border Force workers will walk out over the festive period. The union announced its members working at Gatwick, Heathrow, Manchester, Birmingham and Cardiff airports will strike for 8 days from December the 23rd until New Year's Eve in a row over pay, jobs and conditions. The RMT union says a resolution to the ongoing strikes are further away due to what it calls a late intervention by the government. The comments come amid a wave of strikes across a number of public sectors. The Unite union earlier criticised the Prime Minister after he promised new tough laws to limit the impact of strike action. Ambulance staff will strike in a dispute over pay and conditions as well. Nurses, teachers and rail workers are due to take action in the coming weeks. Labour leader Sir Keir Starmer has accused Mr Sunak of not doing enough to resolve the industrial action.
This morning, his Transport Secretary said that his flagship legislation on strikes, this is what he said this morning, his Transport Secretary, might want to listen to this, is clearly not going to help with the industrial action we're facing. He should stop grandstanding, stop sitting on his hands, get round the table and resolve these issues.
The government has been reasonable. It's accepted the recommendations of an independent pay body, giving pay rises in many cases higher than the private sector. But if the union leaders to continue to be unreasonable, then it is my duty to take action to protect the lives and livelihoods of the British public. And that's why, Mr Speaker, since I became Prime Minister, I have been working for new, tough laws to protect people from this disruption.
Former Health Secretary Matt Hancock has announced he will not stand again at the next general election. In a letter to the Prime Minister, he said he was proud of his 9 years in government, making reference to the UK having the first COVID vaccine in the world. TV, online and DAB Plus radio. This is GB News. Now it's back to Farage with Lawrence Fox.
Hi. Rishi Sunak's recent statements and U-turns are starting to make one feel he has a similar relationship with the truth as whoever made the trailer for Harry and Meghan's soon-to-be-released royal-bashing victim fest on Netflix. During the leadership debate, he categorically stated that he would not sanction the erection of any more onshore wind turbines. Take a look at this in August.
Onshore wind, forgive me, yes or no?
No.
But it seems he's had a change of heart, as he often does. So you can look forward to seeing many more of these ugly, unreliable and unrecyclable, bat-chomping, bird-slicing eco-crucifixes, as a good chum of mine calls them, ruining the view from your kitchen window in future, blades turning lazily in the breeze. Perhaps it would have been better if he hadn't had that other change of heart. You know, the one when he said he wasn't going to COP27 because he had pressing domestic concerns. But go he did. And he gave a speech full of right-on eco-chicery to the great and the good, whose private jets sat ticking over with the aircon on at Cairo International Airport. I understand why Rishi went to COP. After all, these global summits are completely anti-democratic. Voters have no say in what harebrained schemes are going to be foisted on them next. The COP meetings completely bypass the democratic system. That's the point. Keep the plebs out of it. Exactly like when they got rid of Prime Minister Truss for having the temerity to attempt actual conservatism and installed Chairman Rishi in her place. Rishi also went to America this week to buy some fracked gas off President Joe Biden, just in case the wind turbines and solar panels soon to carpet our country need a bit of a backup juice. I mean, it makes perfect sense to me. Why frack your own gas? If local communities support it, Rishi's words, not mine, sitting right beneath our feet, ready to be extracted to warm our homes and cook our food, providing us with years of cheap, clean energy when you can buy it off someone 4,000 miles away and ship it across the Atlantic to warm the souls of the British eco-zealots happy in their climate morality. I mean, why create British jobs and British energy when you can offshore that as well? But it's not all bad news in the Conservative Party. There was a very enjoyable Home Affairs Select Committee hearing, which I highly recommend watching if you can drag yourself away from the Harry and Meghan documentary, about migration and asylum with the Albanian ambassador to the UK, Kyriakos Sherko, who couldn't stop saying how safe and lovely Albania was, which begs the question, why are so many risking life and limb to come here? It was all going swimmingly until Lee Anderson, MP for Ashfield, asked him why Albanian men of a certain age opted to take the perilous journey by sea, crammed together in unstable dinghies at the cost of several £1,000s a head, accidentally dropping their mobile phones and anything which could identify them whatsoever over the side in the rough water, rather than paying just a meagre £28 for a Wizz Air flight direct from Tirana to London, and then claim asylum once landed. Lee questioned whether it might just possibly have something to do with this continuing flood of migrants not wanting to appear on any UK government database, or the ability to have their backgrounds checked in any meaningful way. But there is better news. In fact, the best news I've heard all week. Matt Hancock has decided on a change of career. Fresh from destroying our country, our lives, our freedoms, and turning a vast swathe of the population into guinea pigs for his little science experiment, he's decided politics isn't for him anymore, which is great. Matt staying at home will definitely save lives. Yippee. So, I'm asking you tonight, where should we get our energy from? Get in touch, email me at farage@gbnewsuk or use the hashtag Farage on GB News. Right. So let's get on with the show. Well, some news announced in the last moments. Levelling Up Secretary Michael Gove has given planning permission for a new coal mine in Cumbria. The plan has been recommended by the Independent Planning Inspector. It's the first coal mine in the country for 30 years. Joining me to discuss this is energy analyst Andy Meyer and Director of the Climate Media Coalition, Donica McCarthy. What do we think? New mine? Donica, happy?
Sorry, I'm here as the climate columnist for The Independent, but actually addressing your question, it's really bad news. It's like, why are we going back to the 19th century, never mind the 20th century? when we should be investing in the new energies for the new age. Sweden is ploughing ahead with coal-free steel. That's where the new economies are. And if we're going backwards, it's bad for Britain.
Do we not have am I wrong in thinking there's a little bit of a gap between renewables being able to fulfil the demands of energy that fossil fuels currently fulfil, Andy?
So, in the long run, Donica's completely correct. The future of the steel industry is based on electric power. But in the interim, we still have a steel industry that's using an awful lot of coking coal, which is the type of coal they're trying to mine in Cumbria. So on that basis, it's a very simple choice. Should we use the energy that's beneath our feet, or should we import it from places all around the world, some of which have far lower environmental standards than we do and incur the emissions and the pollution associated with the transport? Since we're not going to shut down the steel industry tomorrow and we're not going to automatically transform it into this electric future instantly, then that's the choice presented. And in that case, Michael Gove has made exactly the right choice today.
So we're all agreeing that we want cleaner energy. Everyone agrees that. I think probably what there is disagreement on is timing. Donica, what do you have to say to that?
The International Energy Agency, one of the most respected energy consultancies in the world, says we cannot afford to invest in any new fossil fuels. We have plenty of coke and plenty of coal in existing mines to get us through the transition.
Where are these mines?
They are in Britain, they are in Russia, they are in America. And
we just bring it over, but isn't that bad for the climate?
It costs around between 1% and 2% in CO2 emissions extra to do that. However, what I am simply saying is investing in the old technology that we can't afford to use for the next 30 years, rather than investing in new technology that we can and gives us a competitive advantage internationally, is the same thing to do. I think one of the things that Andy may not understand is the size and scale of what's been agreed today. It's 420 million tonnes of CO2. What does that mean? It's more than the entire British economy emits in a year. We'd have to turn off every single electric light and equipment in our homes, in every house in Britain, for 20 years before we actually cope with the same amount of CO2 as this one decision by Gove. It's a criminal decision.
Isn't CO2 good? I'm sorry, I'm so terrible at this. Isn't it good, CO2? We got more polar bears, I read today. Polar bears are up to 25,000. 14,000. I thought CO2 is brilliant.
Well, come on, Lawrence,
I'm asking. I was taught photosynthesis at school. CO2 was crucial.
Yes.
Why are we
oxygen is crucial, but you don't want if you only have oxygen, you die. So we're talking about the mixture of gases. The problem with CO2 is that we're having too much of it. Yes, of course, it's essential for life, but we're emitting 1 million years. 1 million of stored CO2.
This is a trivial argument. I mean, the decision here is you either produce it locally or you import it, or you offshore your steel industry, so it's out of sight and out of mind, and you're reliant on the Chinese government to tell you honestly how much CO2 they're producing. And frankly, I don't trust the Chinese as much as I trust our own scientists and agencies to monitor this stuff.
Do you trust our own steel companies?
So the steel companies in this country have had their backs against the wall for a very long time because of rising energy costs. So I trust them to tell the truth, absolutely. And I trust them to be investing in jobs locally in Britain rather than offshoring those jobs and claiming that we've claimed some moral victory by making people poorer, colder and less able to afford the sort of goods we want in this country.
The steel companies have said that this is not necessary. Our own British steel company said this mine is not necessary. 85% will be exported to other countries, making it cheaper. And what we need to do is actually move to the new economy. I came here tonight by electric bike, powered by the sun during the day, at night time. We can do this, it's exciting, and we can do this in Britain. It's a patriotic thing. If you want, Andy talks about using...
Where did you charge this solar-powered bike? In the Caribbean or something?
In my home.
You charged a full battery on a bike when we've got the amount of daylight hours we've got?
Yes, at lunchtime today, I charged up my e-bike and it brought me here tonight, no problem.
So were that an average day, then 40% of that would have come from gas. So the only question there is whether the gas power was important or not.
Do you ever plug your electric bike in to the mains?
The only time I've plugged it in the last year was I was away on a holiday and I didn't have enough to bring me back, so I plugged it in at the holiday home where I was. Well, 100%.
Shame on you.
I know, no one's totally perfect, Lawrence, but I tried.
So you've got solar panels on the roof of your house?
Yeah, I've had them since '98.
Great.
had the battery this year. And
See, this is good. I like this.
This is good, and very few people can actually afford to do that.
This is not true.
Why? How much? That's interesting. How much did it cost?
It cost £8,000 for a system.
Oh, so your bike costs as much as a car?
No, it's a third of the cost of a car, for most people. A car. And so what we're actually saying is that most rich people, who we're subsidising this year, the government is subsidising people's energy, which is fossil-fuelled. Why aren't we requiring rich people to put in solar panels? It's a holiday in the sun for them.
Because it's called socialism. You can't just rip money off rich people. It's not.
No, I'm
not
just
how
requiring
capitalism
regulation.
works, you know.
But also, if you force everybody to install a certain type of technology at the same time, all that happens is you create a huge problem in the supply chain for solar power.
Yeah.
So you're installing stuff that's out of date very quickly, rather than letting it come in gradually so that it gets better over time. And then you're creating further problems and expense and loss of treasury that you might be able to spend later better. So it's just bad economics to try and force people to do this. What you need to do is incentivise it through a carbon price that's consistent in the economy, and make sure then they're making reasonable choices between fossil fuel power and solar power.
I thought you were a free marketeer.
Yeah, carbon pricing is free market.
I'm proposing
to incentive. Well, hang on.
He's proposing a tax.
Can I say something?
Of course.
It seems that incentivisation, and one thing I think we probably can agree on is there is a gap between what renewables can give us and where we are with fossil fuels. So incentivising people towards a more renewable future is a great idea. Forcing them towards it may have negative market effects, which I think is a fair point.
I think this is a fascinating argument. Here we have the right-wing free marketeer advocating a carbon tax.
No,
he's advocating carbon.
Talk about the argument. Don't say, here we have right-wing
he described himself. He described himself to me as that in the voice. What I'm saying is he's proposing a tax on carbon. I'm not. I'm just saying let rich people start investing in their homes.
You're not saying let them.
Force them to invest?
By requiring minimum regulations. If your house
rich people to pay for it.
Let's say if your house is worth £2 million, instead of us subsidising them, which we are, using taxpayers' money at the moment, giving them cheaper energy because of the price.
Well, we're also giving people with no money cheaper.
That's right.
You're on dangerous ground here. Saying,
No, I agree. We'd agree.
Apply an energy cap. You've got to apply it to everybody.
What I am saying is, yes, we must subsidise poor people at the moment because fossil fuel prices come through the roof. But I'm saying, why are we investing billions of pounds of taxpayers' money in paying for rich people to heat their swimming pools?
Why is it all about rich people?
Because I'm asking regulation.
Everyone looks at rich people with heated swimming pools and goes, I pity the fact that you've got to spend about as much money as most people would spend on rent for one room in London a week on your silly pool that you've decided to have in England. But because we're a free country and a free democracy, if someone wants to have a swimming pool, they can have it.
No, I agree with that.
We can't attack them for having it.
I'm not
we don't live in a world where we're in Chairman Mao's little outfits.
I'm not attacking them. What I'm saying is I thought you would agree.
I do agree with that.
We shouldn't be using taxpayers' money to subsidise somebody to heat their swimming pool.
Do we
agree on that?
We both agree on this. I mean, what we said when the energy price guarantee came in, but the government would have been better off making general tax cuts for working people and putting very specific targeted welfare in place that helped the poorest, rather than subsidising hot tubs and swimming pools was the exact line we used. So Donnacha's completely right about that. And one of the consequences of not doing that, this general subsidy, is that we're using more energy than we otherwise would. Rich people are not being incentivised to reduce their energy use as fast as they otherwise would be. So completely correct.
They're never going to be incentivised to do that.
But at the margin, that's not true. I mean, most people in this country are not rich, but some of us are better off than others.
If you can afford to heat a swimming pool, you're going to heat your swimming pool whatever it costs you.
That's not true.
And you can also afford solar panels as well if you're required to do it. It's only £8,000.
I agree with you. Solar panels are good.
So, but going back to what's happening today around the wind turbine decision, I mean, again, as a free marketeers, surely you should support. I mean, I'm hoping you support the idea that we should get rid of the red tape that's blocking the market for wind turbines in this country. Surely that's a free market idea that you would support.
Well, I don't know. I go past a lot of wind turbines that aren't turning, and that's just me. But I'm not an energy expert, as you may have noticed.
This is a complicated argument. What happened in 2015 is that Cameron changed the rules to try and avoid taking more difficult decisions about the incentives.
What, David Cameron changed rules to avoid making difficult decisions?
Apparently. So using the planning system to try and avoid making decisions about the subsidy system that he then was eventually changed anyway was what happened. And all that's happening at the moment is they're consulting on how to reverse part of that. but without looking at how they fundamentally reform how we include the social costs of wind turbines in their scheme for incentives.
Guys, I've got to go. The conversation rumbles on, and it's good. So thank you, energy analyst Andy Mayer and director of the Climate Media Coalition, Donnachie McCarthy. Coming up, the migrant crisis has just got a little silly, and the Albanian ambassador has made himself look a little silly in the Commons earlier today. Back soon.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates.
Do you not believe in prisons? I don't believe in prisons. I'm completely stunned.
I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
The national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here. You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. for Gloria Meets. In exclusive interviews, I'll be finding out who our politicians really are and what they really think.
It's something that you would never want anyone to suffer.
I didn't know what channels there were. B, I didn't think I'd be believed.
I must have weighed about 7 stone and I'm 5'8".
My instincts was to sort of cover this up. I mean, clearly that was a mistake.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello there, it's Eamon Holmes here from Breakfast on GB News. We're not just on your television and your screens, you know.
We're on DAB plus digital radio, so you can listen to your favourite shows on the move.
If you've not yet listened to GB News Radio, it's very simple. We're on your radio player and TuneIn apps, on your smart speaker, phone or tablet, or online at gbnews.uk.
Take us with you wherever you go. GB News Radio.
You never have to miss a moment of the People's Channel.
My name's Tom Harwood and join me 9:30 a.m. every weekday for The Briefing, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in politics today.
I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the biscuits in this factory, twice baked.
Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GB News.
What are you going to do about it?
Things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
Hello, I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m, where I'll be joined by two of the country's top comedians as we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight. If it's a big story, we'll be covering it, I guarantee, but we'll also have some fun along the way. That's GB News Headliners at 11 p.m. We won't put you to sleep, unlike some of the other paper review shows out there. So join us, 11 p.m, 7 nights a week.
Welcome back. Tonight, I am asking you, where should we get our energy from? One viewer says, we should get our energy from fossil fuels and nuclear. From within the UK, when possible, we should cut down on unreliable wind and solar. It's a fair point. Phil says, without fracking, we'll be at the mercy of others for energy and it'll cost us a fortune. But that's what the globalists want, isn't it? They can't tolerate the thought of any country being self-sufficient in anything. There is an interesting point there. I quite like the idea of Britain being energy self-sufficient, and the future, as we fill this gap between renewables and fossil fuels, is right beneath our feet, and we should be taking full advantage of that. Another viewer says, the Conservative Party need to scrap the net zero green agenda nonsense and get fracking. Use nuclear energy, open coal mines and coal-fired power stations, and use the oil under the North Sea. I want to go for a pint with you, chum. Derek says, locally produced fossil fuels and nuclear energy, and lots of it. I agree. If it's locally sourced, it's got to be better for the planet than 4,000 miles across the Atlantic. Another viewer says, Gas and fracking on land within our own country, oil and gas from the North Sea, coal from underground. We have plenty of it in Wales. Go on, Wales. Send it over here. We need some. Otherwise, we're all going to freeze to death this Christmas. Now, don't forget to get in touch. Email me, farage@gbnews.uk, or tweet me at #Farage on GB News. Earlier today, the Albanian ambassador to the UK has told MPs that his fellow nationals are being forced to travel over the channel illegally because there are no legal migration options available to them. From May to September this year, Albanians made up 42% of migrants crossing by small boat, with more than 11,000 Albanians arriving in that period. Ambassador Kyriako Cherko defended the actions of the illegal migrants, but came under fire from Home Affairs Committee member Lee Anderson. Take a listen to this piece of beautiful stuff.
Because they don't have the possibility to apply for legal migration. That's the problem. And to apply for visa. Because
No, let me come back to you. Why can't they just visit the country for 28 quid and then claim asylum?
Why?
Yeah. Why can't they visit the country for £28, travel on a plane for £28, come, i.e. on a holiday, and then claim asylum? Why can't they do that?
I don't have this information.
So you do have this information. Why can't they do that?
Well, I can't suppose why they do that.
I would not like to play poker with Lee Anderson. Anyway, illegal immigration in this country is so out of control that local councils are having to defend their hotels from becoming residences to people arriving in small boats. And yet today, we learn that the English dream, our green and pleasant land, is not good enough. As part of his grilling earlier today, the Albanian ambassador, Kyriako Cherko, in London, also revealed in the past month the embassy has issued travel documents to 300 of his citizens who claim to be victims of TikTok. Aren't we all, love? Well, I'm not on it. And wanted to go back home. They believe they've been sold alive from TikTok ads promoting a better life. How does that work for you, Xi Jinping? So, if life here is not as good as it's cracked up to be, it begs the question, why are Albanians risking life and limb to get here? Joining me to discuss this, Conservative MP for Blackpool, Scott Benton. Good evening, Scott.
Good evening, Lawrence.
What's wrong with Albania?
Well, I think you've hit the nail on the head. Why on earth do these Albanians feel the need to come to the UK? Well, I think the answer is quite clear. Senior police officers in my local area tell me the vast majority of serious organised crime in Blackpool is now committed by Albanians. I'm afraid Lee Anderson really did hit the nail on the head in the clip you've just shown. They aren't interested in coming to this country legally. They're not interested in coming to the UK and contributing to our public services or the economy. They come here, they go underground in the black markets, and I'm afraid they are fueling a crime epidemic across this country. And this is on the Conservative government's watch. And unless we get hard fast, then I'm afraid we're on course to lose the next election.
Well, exactly. I mean, people around the country, when they're polled, and in your constituency and Lee Anderson's and many, many others, are fed up of migrants taking over their towns and cities. So why is this so-called Conservative government doing nothing about it? And what should they be doing about it?
Absolutely. The largest single inbox item in my accounts over the last few years has been small boats. People are fed up about this. They have been for an awful long time. Every time I have a surgery in the patch, visit a local function, it's the only issue people want to speak to me about. I'm afraid we've had 2 years of false dawns. We were promised the Nationality and Borders Bill would fix this. We had a brilliant Home Secretary in Priti Patel. I think she tried to do everything within her power, including, by the way, attempting to leave the ECHR to deal with this crisis. And for whatever reason, that hasn't happened. I've had meetings recently with the Home Secretary and others. We've been planned legislation to deal with this problem in weeks, not months. And that has to come through because people genuinely are sick and tired of seeing the images of people coming to the UK, looking for a life of crime and not contributing to our country. This has to stop. This is an invasion, being no doubt about that whatsoever. And it really is time my government stepped up to the plate and brought in the measures which are conclusively going to deal with this problem.
Are your government able to, though, or are they hampered and stopped by the deep state, by the class of people, the unelected class of people who are very happy to welcome in these migrants? Does the government have any power to do anything?
There's certainly an element of that, I believe. I mean, we all saw the problems Priti Patel had as Home Secretary trying to get through the Rwanda scheme and other issues like that in the face of robust civil service opposition. Rishi's come into power. He's only been there a matter of weeks. He's made it clear that this is one of his top priorities. I think we have to give him the time to try and work through legislative options to solve this, but I'm afraid the clock is ticking. The patience of not just Conservative MPs like myself, but more importantly, my constituents and millions of people in this country ran out long ago. Rishi has to step up to the place and he has to deal with this. Otherwise, we will leave a vacuum on the right of the spectrum where other parties will come in and cost the Conservative government the next election. Last thing we want is a Labour government, but unless we get serious about this, I'm afraid that's an imminent prospect at this moment in time.
Well, I don't hold too much confidence in Rishi taking control of this, but tell me, what's wrong with the 28 quid direct flight from Tirana to London on Wizz Air? Why is that better than getting in a dinghy?
Absolutely, and wasn't it embarrassing to see the Albanian ambassador there? He was absolutely speechless in the face of robust and fair questioning from my colleague Lee Anderson. Everybody knows that these Albanians aren't interested in coming to the country legally. If they produced a passport on a flight from Tirana, we frankly wouldn't let them in because they don't meet the requirements this country has. That's why they pay thousands of pounds to come across the channel, and that's why as soon as they are in hotels in constituencies such as mine, they vanish overnight and the Home Office loses all track of where these people are, and then they'll probably pop up opening a cannabis farm or involved in serious organised crime. That is
why are we so soft
in this country, and we have to get tough, Lawrence. For far too long, this country, frankly, has been a soft touch on this issue. You know that, I know that, millions of your viewers know that as well, and it has to stop. It's as simple as that.
Well, on another note, but on an optimistic note, we have opened up a coal mine, so we can start to dream of times of old again a bit. How do you feel about that news?
I think that was positive news, Lawrence. I mean, the ridiculous situation was we're potentially transporting coking coal from countries such as China to use in manufacturing, such as our steel plants in this country. And it looked very good on paper because, of course, the CO2 emissions were down as a Chinese mine, not a British mine, but it was killing the environment. Ridiculous scenario of shipping coal tens of thousands of miles across the planet. I think at last we've heard a bit of common sense from our government in approving that. But of course, we have a long way to go, but we will savour the good news of a coal mine opening at the moment, but a lot of progress to do, not just on energy supplies, but on so many different areas this government is trying to tackle.
And what do you make of Rishi's relationship with the truth, with these onshore wind farms, his U-turn after everything? You know, can he be trusted, this new chairman Rishi, as I like to call him, of the Con Socialist Party?
I think Rishi can be trusted. Questions of honesty and integrity, I don't think anybody in the party or indeed political discourse challenges Rishi on those aspects. I think you can talk about his ideology, you can talk about the direction he wants to take the Conservative Party in, but certainly in the dealings I've had with him and colleagues as well, he's straight down the line. I think he does have an ambition to tackle some of those issues which, rightly or wrongfully, previous Conservative Prime Ministers haven't tackled. And just on the piece on onshore wind farms, I know Conservative MPs have various different views about that, but it has to be a better approach than looking at bringing in energy from foreign nations. Of course, you need nuclear power, you need other stable forms of energy. We all know the gas doesn't blow 100% of the time. It's an important part of energy production in this country and also part of a growth agenda. We have Conservative colleagues who say, no, Gov, I'm not having wind turbines in my areas. Well, frankly, that's not acceptable. It's a national
Well, if you consider wind turbines, you should also... If you consider wind turbines, you should also consider fracking, in my view. Anyway, Scott Benton MP, thank you very much for joining me. Right. Up next. Have you heard, oh Lord, who wrote this? The camel penis munching Matt Hancock has revealed his fate. Don't go away from my verdict, you...
We are GB News, and we'd like to say thank you to each and every one of you for bringing us your conversations, for helping our great nation find its voice. We are here for you on radio, television, and online, across England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland.
It's not the BBC, you actually get your facts right.
We are proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
Monday to Thursday on GB News, it's Bev Turner Today from 10 a.m. We're going to be here for you, our GB News family, to keep you up to date, but also make you smile.
There's a guy who went from puberty to adultery.
And I can't wait to bring a few of my own opinions.
I have no time for cultural totalitarianism.
We'll engage in passionate, but always polite debate, with your thoughts and opinions at the centre of it all. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akue, Saturday and Sunday afternoons on GB News. Expect fiery debate and passionate discussion as me and my panel tackle some of the biggest topics hitting the headlines. It's a place for everyone's opinion. No one gets cancelled, but no one gets an easy ride.
Oh, she's on it today!
Be ready for conversations that are fierce, frank, and of course, fun. Every Saturday and Sunday afternoon from 4 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. You've been cancelled. Join the club.
Oh my goodness, brilliant.
And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
And right across the United Kingdom.
You can find us on Sky Channel 512.
Virgin Media Channel 604.
Freesat Channel 216.
Freeview Channel 236.
And YouView Channel 236.
You can also take us with you on DAB Plus Radio.
With the GB News app and at the website gbnews.uk.
We're absolutely everywhere.
Come join us on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. After 3 weeks of stuffing himself with camel penis down under, our former Health Secretary Matt Hancock confirmed today that he'll be stepping down as an MP at the next election. These are some of the reasons he gave in a TikTok video he released before.
I've increasingly come to the view that it's so important to engage with people about politics, about how our country is run, not just through Parliament, but also through new and innovative ways. And I look forward to doing more of that. There are exciting possibilities ahead. And of course, until the next election, I will serve all of my constituents and ensure that they have their voice in Parliament.
How decent of him. Wanting to engage with people through new and exciting ways. Well, no, it's not noble of him. When you find out that, as the iPaper today reported, he's only going to step down after losing a vote of confidence from his local constituency association in West Suffolk. And it's not very noble when you consider he's 400 grand better off than he was now this time last month after taking a 3-week holiday to film I'm a Celeb, all under the guise of raising awareness for dyslexia. Or when you think about his time as Health Secretary, when from March 2020, he basically turned us into a modern-day East Germany. This is the man who locked us inside our houses for months on end, failed to put a so-called protective ring around care homes. Brilliant policy, that one, Matt. He also oversaw a failed procurement programme in the health department which saw millions of pounds lost to fraud. Standing down as an MP is just about the least he could do. Bye. Right, sorry. I have me and Matt Hancock. OK, better news. Following Morocco's incredible win over Spain in penalties yesterday afternoon, I think there was certainly justification for celebrating, raising a glass, waving the flag. But let's go back to summer 2021. England fans were out in force celebrating wins over Germany, Ukraine and Denmark after making our first final since 1966. Huge moment in the history of our country, especially following the heinous lockdown laws that had starved us of any joy whatsoever, much of which is given to us by the beautiful game, until they started kneeling. Dreadful. However, the newspaper headlines that followed the English celebrations described the scenes as chaos, branding the fans as thugs and disrespectful. Why do our media hate us so much? Why are they not on the side of the British people? I don't get it. Anyway, last night, when Moroccan fans took to the streets following their win, they shut down Trafalgar Square, climbed monuments, set off flares, smoked bombs and fireworks, stood on the roof of cars, blared music through the streets, and the headlines described the Moroccan fans as being delighted and meeting joyfully with others, referring to the scenes as celebrations. Now, look, I'm not saying that people shouldn't have fun, but why, when our own fans in their own country celebrate, are they vilified as thugs? And when Moroccan fans behave in exactly the same way, they're portrayed as fun-loving, law-abiding citizens. I can't help but feel it's just sort of snobbery towards the vast majority of working-class men and women who are the backbone of the actual national team's support. I'm with you guys. So get your St George's flag out. There's a big game in 72 hours. And remember, all you have to do is stop the dinghies advancing down the beach. More of your reactions to my question this evening. Where should we get our energy from? Ryan says, coal, coal and more coal. It is by far the cheapest source of energy and with modern equipment can be burnt efficiently with very little pollution. This is true. Tonight's decision on the Whitehaven mine should be the first of many. I agree. Marion answers, every available source. This is all. I also agree. Let's, everywhere. Let's find our energy where we can find it and encourage children to become amazing inventors. Bill says, we have 12 wind turbines near us. Even when there is no wind, all 12 are whizzing around. Really? Powered by diesel engines. There we go. How green is this? Phil says, tidal power has to be the way forward. Never stops coming in and going out. We're an island. That makes sense to me too. Lisa says the sea, barriers across the Bristol Channel, for instance. It makes sense. Come on, guys, who hasn't invented this? Right, next. The public are being warned to be extra vigilant at World Cup events and in crowded places throughout the festive period as the threat from terrorism remains very real, according to the counter-terror police. Authorities say the run-up to Christmas is always higher risk when it comes to security threats, although the police say there is no specific intelligence of a planned attack. Just be scared all the time, all of you, and see how good that is for your mental health. Anyway, our Home and Security editor, Mark White, has been speaking to one of the UK's most senior counter-terrorism officers.
Across the nation, many thousands are currently packing into venues to enjoy the delights of the world's premier football tournament. The last thing anyone here wants to be thinking about is the threat of attack. But terrorists often seek out crowded places to cause maximum harm. The festive period is traditionally higher risk. Add to that a massive programme of events like the World Cup, and authorities say everyone should be alert to the potential dangers.
We know that since 2017, the intelligence services and policing have foiled 37 attack plots in the UK. And I don't say that to alarm people, but I say that to show people how hard policing and the intelligence services are working in the background to keep them safe. Many terrorist investigations rely on information coming into the system, and I'm here to try and encourage the public to remain really vigilant and alert.
Here in Birmingham, the city's German market has fully reopened for the first time since the pandemic. Annual events like these are a key part of security planning, ever since Islamist terrorists targeted Christmas markets in multiple European cities in recent years. All around this Christmas market are the discreet and not so discreet signs of security. The most obvious are these vehicle barriers. They're positioned at all the entrances to the market. In fact, these barriers are so commonplace now in centres of population right across the country. They're almost part of the street scenery.
It's nice to see people out. It's nice to get out and be able to do this again.
After lockdown, Andrew Lawson is just glad to see a bit of normality. And security concerns are not, he says, going to stop his enjoyment.
We all have to live our lives, don't we? You can't stay at home and wait for something to happen. You just have to live it.
Andy and Kelly had their first date here 3 years ago. Back for the first time since then. They say the obvious security presence doesn't concern them. Quite the opposite.
And we've seen all the security barriers up for years now. It's not an unusual thing to see. And I don't know of anything that's happened up here.
I think if you come anywhere where there's going to be a mass amount of people, you need to plan for anything really. And so having security, you feel a bit safer coming.
Authorities say they don't want to alarm the public. Indeed, terror groups like Al-Qaeda and ISIS have been severely degraded by Western military activity in recent years. But the security services warn they are attempting to regroup, and they've never lost their capacity to radicalise and influence others over the internet. So while the public enjoy the World Cup and Christmas festivities ahead, they're also being asked to remain vigilant. Mark White, GB News, Birmingham.
Brilliant investigation there from our intrepid Mark White. Next up is my favourite part of the evening, Talking Pints. I will be back soon.
Coming up on Dan Wootton Tonight, do ultra-privileged Harry and Meghan really deserve an award for fighting oppression? And should the palace ungag Sussex survivors? Dan will bring the best analysis from top royal analysts. Plus, tough-talking Tory MP Lee Anderson breaks down why Britain should introduce an asylum cap. And could strike chaos spell the end for Labour? That's Dan Wootton Tonight, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. on GB News.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Mark Stein. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
Here on GB News Live, we'll be keeping you in the picture, finding out what's happening across the country and finding out why it matters to you. We'll have the facts fast with our team of reporters and specialist correspondents. Wherever it's happening, we'll be there from 12 noon on TV, radio and online. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Dubes & Co. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Dubes & Co.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
Why not take us home with you by visiting the GB News shop at gbnews.store. You'll find all the official merchandise, a really good present actually for yourself, your friends or your family.
We ship across the UK mainland at no extra cost. GB News, the People's Channel.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Our authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime. With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
We are GB News, right across the nation. You can get us on television, on radio, on digital. We're absolutely everywhere.
Amazing! You see, amazing!
You remind me of me in the European Parliament. But here's the most important bit. We are not part of the mainstream establishment. We think and speak just like you do. We are the People's Channel.
Magnificent. That's really, really thoughtful.
Come and join us on GB News, the People's News Channel.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
The GB News bar is open, so it can only mean one thing. Yep, talking pints. Joining me is carpenter and now star of TV, Raphael Mead. Before we get stuck into a drink, here he is in 2017 on a little-known show called Eden.
No, I'm not interested. I'm quite happy to go home. I still don't want him in there, though. No,
all the rules had gone out the window at that point. There was just too much upset, too much ill feeling. Some of us are burning more than others. I just wanted to speak to my missus at that time.
I gotta be more. I gotta be more. Yeah, I'm alright.
Now, what's wrong? Why are you phoning?
Because we've been naughty people. We've talked out of the camp.
Oh, what a pleasure to meet you. Cheers.
That so stirs me.
You just said it gets you. What do you mean?
Yeah, it just, when I watch it, it just stirs me inside.
What
gets my emotions going. I can't watch it again.
Really?
Yeah, it really churns on me. It just eats me up because there are people that were in there that really made it unnecessarily hard because it could have been such a fantastic show. And some people just...
From the rules.
I don't want to say bad of anyone, so I'm going to leave it there.
All right, let's leave it there.
Yeah.
As I was getting to know you, having not known you today, I was really interested in what you were talking about in terms of being a father.
Okay, go on.
And I'm a dad, and I think dads need coaching. And now you've got you're a granddad, so I want a bit of coaching myself. I want other dads to get a bit of coaching. And the thing that struck me was that you said, you can...
This is real, by the way.
Yeah, it is real booze. Woohoo! You said that you can be your child's friend, but you have to be its parent first.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
I remember
now,
saying
I was always said you can't be your kid's friend, you've got to be their parent. So talk me through what you think. The other thing you said, which I thought was brilliant, was when someone said, how do you parent? You went, when you've done something wrong. So just talk me through, give me some advice with your wisdom on how to be a better dad.
But you know what it is? I think for myself personally, I remember what it was like when I was a kid, and I've always hung on to that. And I know the relationship that I had with my dad, it was up and down. It was, my dad was a typical man of his time. But the good thing about what we had was it was a great lesson in how not to be. I didn't want to be like my dad. I didn't want to be that kind of a parent because he was your typical, come home, chuck the money on the table. My mum had to deal with whatever she was given. And then he'd be off to the bookies. I can remember going in the bookies to pick him up, to go and get him. But anyway, the thing is, it showed me that I didn't want to be that kind of a parent. I wanted to be involved. I wanted to be in my kids' lives. And it's about setting boundaries and sticking to them And I think the mistake a lot of people make as parents is to tell their children, don't do this, and then the children do it, and then they set a new boundary. I said, don't do that, and then the children still do it, and then they set a new boundary. Straight away, you're telling your children that my word means nothing. Right, now, here's an example. Please don't take me literally, but let's say, for example, it slipped out. You do that again, I'm going to poke you in the eye. Now, you shouldn't have said it. But now the fact that you have said it, you've got to stand by it. So if your child does something, one good poke in the eye. Now, again, I say, you shouldn't have said that, and that's not something I'm saying that people should do. But all I'm trying to say is that you need to stand by your word. Make what you say real.
Is masculinity toxic?
Masculinity?
Yeah.
No, masculinity. See, masculinity being toxic. I'm a man, and I'm a typical male, so I'm not going to say masculinity. No, it's not toxic. No.
But do you know what I mean? I have had experiences with my kids. It's like this. Unfortunately, I'm lucky enough now to be able to go like this with most of them.
And that's enough, right?
Sometimes.
Okay.
There's no... I'm not awarding myself Parent of the Year. I'm not. But is there something... You know, is there... My view is that we need really good, strong masculine and feminine role models in this world.
Agree.
That are diverse and they're not the same, and that will help children to flourish.
Right.
Do you agree?
I agree with that 100%. We need a bit of hard and soft.
Yeah.
Whether or not it comes from opposite parents, it doesn't matter, but children need a bit of hard, a bit of loving, and a bit of hard, you know, and a bit of soft, a bit of loving.
Yeah.
And I don't think children today are getting that. I think what children today get is too much soft. My youngest included. Oh, she does my nutting.
Really? Well, it's hard, though, because everything around them is very soft.
Yeah.
So they're not used to being confronted over issues that we would confront them over. Okay, so as we move forward, and you know, you're going to become the even wiser, more senior gentleman in this world. What are you going to say to your great grandkids? Get off the iPhone.
Do you know, it actually feels. For myself, it feels easier with my grandkids.
Is it?
Maybe it's because my children were the learning curve.
Yeah.
And now, you know, I've ironed out all the wrinkles, so anything I may have done wrong there, I've put right here. Because I've got a great relationship with my grandkids.
Good for you.
So I've got a great relationship with my kids.
Good for you.
I work with my son and I work together.
I'm so upset that we have to wrap this, but your cab was late.
Yeah, it was.
Right. Thank you. Carpenter and now TV star, Raphael Mead. Coming up next, it's Big Mark Dolan in for Mark Stein. Mark, what do you got for us?
Well, Lawrence, another brilliant show. We're very excited because we've got Donald Trump's former chiefs of staff live in the studio. We'll be asking whether Donald Trump can save America. Also, in my big opinion monologue, I'll be dealing with those going on strike. Incredibly cruel, especially the nurses and the RMT. Hard-working Brits desperate for a Christmas break won't see their family in many cases. Also, is climate change racist? That's the view of the millionaire Hollywood star Jane Fonda, who has clearly lost the plot. We're also going to have a look at why the media don't care about excess deaths. And the answer is because it's not COVID. Plus some concerns about the vaccine in relation to young people. And your emails throughout the show. That is gbviews@gbnews.uk. Lots to get through. Keep it Mark Dolan for the next hour. I'm Mark Dolan. Join me at 11 on GB News for Headliners, in which I'll be joined by two of the UK's top comedians discussing tomorrow's papers. If it's an important story, we'll cover it, but we'll have some fun along the way. Headliners, the late night paper review that won't send you to sleep like the others will. 7 nights a week at 11 p.m. on GB News.